Okay.
from David. Okay, I guess that's it, and I've never run a meeting, so I want you to.
That's
I sort of
okay.
ask
I have
someone
to find
for
it
the
here
mayor.
and like.
So,
What is that awful, what is that awful blue light? Oh, you have.
is that better?
Yes, I'm actually, that was where I was gonna sit.
Can I go there? Linda,
Okay, can I just show you a couple things?
Yeah.
Because I'm get you guys started at once.
Oh, okay.
Once you
Oh my
start.
gosh. Oh no.
So, no, it's really easy. When,
Already in.
when the meeting's over,
200
Yeah.
pounds.
just click on this right here.
Okay.
300
Okay.
pounds.
Oh,
Just drop that down, and then you take this, point it at that,
Oh, that's the power, just turns
Turn
off
that
the
off.
power for this.
and then obviously turn off.
Okay.
So 3
And
seconds.
then to close the door when you get out, there's like, get the
I'll
bell.
set that to lock. so
You'll
stuff.
set it to lock,
As long as
okay.
you just make sure it latches.
Okay, because in the past, we've been here, been kind of mystified about.
I'll get that set for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, good luck. Have a nice meeting.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
See you, Meredith.
Okay. Progress but not perfection.
You're gonna have to shout if you want to make yourself heard because we can't. Oh, you know what? I wonder if,
We had to have a new roof.
should I sit over in Rob's seat?
So we had.
Well, I guess I don't need to.
Contractors.
I don't need to stay. I mean, maybe we'll sit.
Madeline? Madeline?
On the slide.
Yes.
Alyssa tells me that I still can run the meeting because I'm still the chair until this election takes place.
Oh, that's exciting. Yes. I'm very-
Yes. So I had a long conversation about legalities with her. I assumed that because,
Wait. Can everybody make sure, like, can we call the meeting to order and then everybody will listen to exactly what you're saying?
okay,
Let's call the meeting to order. Okay. Now we're all paying
It is
attention.
Now 4:31.
all right.
Meredith asked me to take notes.
Oh, okay.
I'd be happy if you want to.
No. I'm very happy to have you as long as we know that it's being done. Oh, all right. So Meredith, yes, let's get started.
Okay, well, I had on the agenda, which I hope you all have in front of you,
We do.
opening remarks to welcome Eric Russell, who is our select board representative to Heritage. He's on a plane heading for home, so he won't be here today. So welcome, Eric, in absentia. I was delighted to realize that we've only missed one meeting. I'm coming up on 1 month out of the hospital, so that's a celebration. And I continue to improve. I am still technically dealing with pneumonia, however. So I become a drug addict practically with all the medications. Okay, the first thing on the agenda, we are officially open, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the March minutes. There was no April meeting.
I move that we accept the March minutes as written.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The minutes are, the draft March minutes
Anyone
are approved.
opposed?
I voted yes.
Pardon?
Nothing.
I was asking if anyone was opposed.
Oh, okay.
Careful, if you're opposed, you may become secretary.
Okay, moving right along.
Meredith, Suzanne would like to say something.
Oh, Suzanne?
I wanted to clarify, now as a substitute, I no longer vote, but am I part of the quorum?
Yes, you are, and you do vote.
You vote.
If, you know, you are part of the quorum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, excellent.
Okay.
Yes,
You're an alternate, not a
Alternate,
substitute.
yeah.
yes.
Don't we
Okay.
have to inform her that she's being elevated to voting status?
Yes.
That's
Yes,
what we
we
do with the
do.
It's a
planning.
Um,
board.
No, you don't need to put that in. She's an alternate, and when if there wasn't a quorum, her vote would be crucial. I'll check all of that out with Elisa, who is the authority on such subjects.
What is the quorum for us? Sorry.
4, it's a 7-member
Okay.
commission. So if we have 4 people, that makes a quorum. However, I don't count because I'm remote.
Right.
Remote counts for everything, even voting, except a quorum. Go figure.
Yeah, I was kind of confused about that because I went to listen to something at the zoning board and when I was sick at home, they said, no, vote, you can vote.
Yeah, yeah.
Which stunned me, even though I wasn't a part of the quorum, so.
Oh, I remember that.
Exactly, yeah. All right, so,
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the election of the chair and the vice chair. All committees and commissions will now have a vice chair, which should have happened a long time ago in my book. But I guess me being out of commission called attention to the fact that we need a second in command. So I will welcome nominations from the floor.
For which one first?
Well, you pick.
Okay. Shouldn't we do the chair
we
first?
should start, yes, I think we should start with
All
the
right.
chair.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Meredith Smith.
I second that, I would like nomination.
All right. Any other comments? So shall we go around and have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
All right. Thank you very much for your great faith in me. I was elected chair of the Lakeside Park Committee in absentia, not even on the, not even on Zoom or Teams. Okay, the next person we have to elect is a vice chair. Madeline has been acting as vice chair, and I'd like to nominate Madeline to continue in that role.
I second that.
I'm willing to do it, I'm happy to do it.
All in favor? Oh, first I'm
Aye.
supposed to say discussion. Sorry, discussion.
Good
I
idea.
told you, Madeline, that I wasn't all that good at this either. Being no discussion, let's have a vote. All in favor of Madeline Johnson as vice chair of the Heritage Commission?
Aye.
Aye.
Madeline, you are duly elected.
Lovely.
Okay. The next thing I have on the agenda is the responsibilities of the Heritage Commission. I put that on thinking that Eric would be here. I think there's a general ignorance of just what a Heritage Commission is in town, particularly with the planning board. It is a land use board, just like the ZBA, the planning board. And if you Google or go to New Hampshire Heritage Commission RSAs, you will see all the rules and regulations. And I have found it interesting. And I hope that gradually this can be brought to the planning board and somehow educate them. First of all, that we're not just about all things historic. I put the mission statement at the top of the agenda, which I'll read. The Enfield Heritage Commission will properly recognize, protect, and promote the historic, aesthetic resources that are significant to our community, be they natural, built, or cultural. I think that's very important because a Heritage Commission covers a lot more territory than just a Historic District Commission. The commission will work cooperatively with other educational and civic organizations fulfilling its mission. That's how we had become involved with EVA in the past, and hopefully we will become more involved with the planning board and other town committees, even civic organizations like the Lions and the Lionesses. So that's a little bit of homework for you to review what Heritage Commissions are all about.
Yeah, I was surprised. I happened to look at that just right before I came, and it's interesting. It specifies cultural and artistic activities, and it as well. It's not. It's
Exactly.
It lays that out very specifically, which I think is something that I certainly didn't realize.
Neither did I till I read the information. I think I sent out an email regarding the Moose Plate grant that we're going to be applying for, moving on the townhouse. While I was in the hospital, I had a lot of things to think about besides lungs. And it suddenly dawned on me that the letter of intent to apply for a Moose Plate grant was coming up. And I thought it was a week earlier than it was. And I emailed Amy Dixon, who's the point person at New Hampshire Historic Resources for Moose Plate grants. And she said, oh no, she said, it's not till the 6th. So I emailed, this is all from the hospital, by the way. I emailed Ed Morris and I said, we need to submit a letter of intent. This was 3 days before the letter of intent was due, May 6th. And we got it off. And also Liam Ehrenzweig, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name properly, the building inspector, we were supposed to meet a couple of times before I went into the hospital, but I was sick and had to postpone it. But he went over there and did a very thorough assessment in preparation for this effort of the Moose Plate grant. It's a $20,000 grant, by the way. And I've printed out the work that he thinks needs to be done. First and foremost, the building, the entrance is not safe, and he said it's not legal to use it right now. So he has added granite steps, 3 granite steps to the existing stairs by removing the 2 wooden steps and replacing with granite, and added a bottom step for a more even walk path. And the building code calls for a landing at the top of the stairs, but speaking with Ed, he didn't want to add a landing because it would push the stairs 4 feet further toward the road, and I agree. So he's sort of giving us a wink and a nod on that, and he wants wooden railings and balusters instead of steel railings, and again, I would agree. But the biggie on this, he has that in at $12,000. I'm hoping it can come in at less. The big thing is the drainage work that he feels needs to be done around that building. And if you remember, several years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we had Don Woods, a hydrologist from Vermont, come and do, it was a mini grant we got through the Preservation Alliance, and he did an assessment of the building and the surrounding land and said there's a lot of water coming down that hill. It's not just the brook, it's coming from lots of different directions. So Liam is suggesting that we do some serious drainage work around the building, and I think that's probably really important. And he goes on, you can read his report. It's not glamorous stuff, this drainage work, but it's for the life of the building, it's going to be really important to keep the water out from underneath the building. So I had suggested to him, excuse me, Steve Patton worked on that building back in the 70s. He was working for his father. And it was at that time that they replaced the side of the building next to the brook, which is concrete block. That's when the concrete block foundation went in. And I asked Liam to talk to Steve. First of all, he's a master at things like drainage. And if he had any more light to shed on the business of drainage around the building. So that grant is due on June 23rd, and I'll be working with Liam and probably Ed Morris to get it off. And fortunately now it doesn't have to be hard copy. I've delivered more than one of these grants in person on the last day. In eight different copies had to be in a loose leaf binders that they've given up on, thank heavens. So comments about the Moose Plate grant application for the townhouse.
I have one question. What is the Woods engineering report, and when was that done?
I'm not sure. It's probably 3, maybe 4 years. I can send it out. Why don't I send it out? I have it in my computer.
Okay, no, I just was curious
Yeah.
what it was, since it predates my Heritage Commission experience.
Yeah, he is the hydrologist from Vermont
Oh, okay.
that we got the mini grant for.
Okay.
And he did a lot of work for his $500, I'll say that. If this goes over budget, one thing that might happen is that we wind up applying for a second grant next year. And Amy Dixon has been very good about combining the two. When we did all the work a couple of years ago under the building where the columns had been knocked over, Moose Plate's grants were limited to $10,000 at the time. And we couldn't get a bid in for, oh God, the only bid that came in was for $64,000, and that was with Target New England for the work that needed to be done. And finally by then, Matt Dow had submitted a bid for the work, and it was around $15,000, which was $5,000 more than what we had on hand. So we decided to, I talked to Amy Dixon, and she said, well, you can hold it over till next year and reapply for a second grant, which is what we did. So we then had $20,000 in the kitty because we were approved. And then the Target New England was the only bidder on the RFP. So they came in at $64,000. And I said, well, all we've got is $20,000. And they said, okay, we'll do it for that. And I was very suspicious that we were going to get the Mickey Mouse School of Historic Preservation, but they actually did a really good job. They've done a lot of work for Canterbury. They did work in Hanover, I think on the Hanover Town Hall. I have to look up at that. It may have been the Baker Library. It was a bell tower anyhow. So anyhow, they managed to come in. I don't know why they gave us that humongous bid, but they did the work for $20,000 because that was the only money we had. So I'm hoping the same thing will happen again. Liam took his figures out of the some kind of construction estimating manual that he has. So I'm hopeful, is all I can say. Celie, how do you feel about the drainage business?
By what he's described, I think it's fine.
Okay,
What he's described with the ditch with the stones and having it go out.
yeah, there is, and there's a curious hose that's going into the brook from the other side of the brook. It looks like it's coming from Alan Strickland's house. And Leon was going to look into that. It could be a sump pump that Alan has draining into the brook. I'm not sure.
Where they're pulling water out.
Yeah, there's a lot of
People do that.
there's a lot of junk in that brook too that could be cleaned out, but only in the wet season. I mean, I remember when we had to clean up the townhouse for the Old Home Day dance. I think it was 2016. And there was hardly any water in the brook, and that was our source of water to wash the floor. So it's certainly seasonal. Okay, any questions on the Moose Plate grant?
I just have a question. You say there is the junk in the stream preventing it from flowing out? Is that
Well,
contributing
not
to the drainage issues? Is it
No.
backing up?
not
No.
really, but there's branches and things
Oh,
like
junk,
that.
okay. It's not
Yeah,
like old
yeah,
mess.
not old tires and
It could be. It could be.
The last river
Meredith?
was.
I've got an old bed.
Meredith,
Old bed
Shirley,
springs
Shirley's
embedded
joined us.
inside.
He was what?
I'm on the Knox and there's some truck springs and an old.
Meredith,
yes,
Shirley's joined us now.
yes, I see. I don't know what has happened with the video. Rob worked with me on it and couldn't get it to work. So you're just going to have to listen to the ghost voice.
Oh,
Can
Which
you
is-
see us?
Yeah, she can see us.
She can see us? Okay.
Okay, no other questions on the Moose Plate grant?
You get
Next,
permission?
what's that?
Did the selectmen have to approve it?
I think they have to approve all grant applications. Yes, Celia, and that's a good point. I'll leave that to Ed to promote.
Okay.
I can't imagine why they would vote it down. But after my experience with the budget committee and Holly West being the sole vote against Lakeside Park, you just never know. Okay, moving on, Lakeside Park. We continue to work on the Land and Water Conservation Grant, trying to raise the money for the match. I've been out of the loop, as you know. I stay in pretty close touch with Patty Freed, who is the master gardener, really in charge of all the plantings. And Liam had suggested, Liam's become quite involved with Lakeside Park. Instead of working on the parking area, we need to establish the walking trails first, because it could involve heavy equipment moving over the parking area and then messing up what brand new stuff. 2 bicycle racks have been ordered. They'll be in, I think, in July. We're trying to urge people not to ride their bicycles through the park, particularly through the pavilion. And I hope that something can be done to squelch that. First of all, it's dangerous when you have little kids walking around and elderly people, and bicycles come zooming through there. These are not typically Friends of the Northern Rail Trail people. These are mavericks. I have watched a bicyclist come down the hillside where the the former access point was where the tar is that Jim Taylor's going to remove, come flying down that bank where we tried to get grass to grow, and it is finally taking on, and whip through the pavilion and down through the parking area. And there's no need for that. Ken Warren has been great. Ken is on the Lakeside Park Committee, and he's gotten some signs urging people to, stay on the rail trail. So the bicycle racks hopefully will encourage people that want to be at the park, but they've come in by bike, to park their bicycle in the bike racks. Two bike racks. One will be at what I call the Steve Patton access point from the rail trail, and the other will be somewhere near the entrance to the park. And we've received donations for those bike racks. They're made by the same company that made the picnic tables and the benches, which they both turned out to be very substantial and reliable. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Shirley, do you have any comments to make about Lakeside Park? Because you've been at more meetings than I have lately.
No, I don't have any additional ones, any additional comments. I think you've covered it.
Meredith,
Yeah.
what's the name of the grant that you need matching money for?
It's called the Land and Water Conservation Grant. It's a federal grant that's run through state agencies or state agency. I'm not sure which agency, probably Land and Water Conservation Agency. Jack Wasmack was really concerned about this grant because he felt that there would be a lot of stipulations put on it that would be burdensome. But he, one by one, worked them out, and so we're okay with it.
What's the total grant amount?
The total grant amount is, let me see, I'm trying to remember. I think it's 125,000, Linda. I have to check on that. And it's a match, like the Northern Borders grant. It's a dollar for dollar match.
So we need to come up with 125.
Yes, yeah, but I should have gotten the figures. Doug is the bookkeeper for Lakeside Park. I don't know where we are right now. I think we've raised, I don't know, maybe 80 or 90,000. There's about 40,000 left to raise, is all I can remember. But if we don't raise it all, we can still, in other words, let's say we only raise the 100,000, we can still get 100,000 in match from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And this grant will pay for the walking trails that will be on the other side of the pavilion where I would say kind of a nature park will be created. Patty Freed has done a fantastic job of planning the plantings. She had Henry Holmeyer come and advise. They found a vernal pool at the very end of the park land. Park is total of 3.1 acres. So down at the very end, there's this vernal pool, which will be really nice for education programs, particularly aimed at kids, where we need to teach them what a vernal pool is. So that was a nice find that we didn't realize was there. Doug got a guy to brush whack it, I guess it was last fall, because there was so much grass and junk in there, you literally couldn't see the forest from the trees. So that helped a lot in seeing what the potential for that area will be. The Lake Association has some kind of a social gathering there on the 18th of June, and the Upper Valley Land Trust is hosting their second board meeting there. Jeannie McIntyre, the director of the Upper Valley Land Trust, loves the park, and it doesn't hurt to have an organization like the Land Trust in our back pocket. I'd like to remind the Heritage Commission that the Lakeside Park was an effort, an outgrowth of heritage. We saw the potential for this land that was going to be declared surplus and would have been probably 2 or 3 McMansions built there. It was the last remaining large piece of land on the lake. And I had always felt that the access for people of Enfield was really limited between the Dinky Beach and the boat ramp. If you didn't have a boat, or you didn't have a child that wanted to swim or have beach lessons, there was no place that, unless you had lakefront property, you could come and enjoy the lake. So this is really a victory for the Heritage Commission, as I see it, because it was through the Heritage Commission, again, natural, cultural, all those things in the mission statement, is what was the impetus for getting Lakeside Park. And I had to do a lot of convincing. Steve Schneider was the town manager at the time, and I had a mole at New Hampshire DOT who kept feeding me information, and she kept saying, you've got to get that land appraised or assessed before the state does. And I bugged Steve. I said, we've got to do this. And finally he agreed, and we got Norm Bernache, actually another name. Scott Osgood was in the position that Rob Taylor has now. And Scott got the name of some guy in Lebanon. And I called him as an appraiser. And he said, there's only one guy to do this, and his name is Norm Bernache. He is the expert on lakefront property. Well, he is Enfield's appraiser anyhow, so it worked out. Anyhow, Norm came in with a very, very detailed assessment of the land at 118.5, I think was the figure. And I was stunned because it was 3.1 acres of lakefront property. But he found all sorts of problems of why it wasn't a buildable piece of land. And when the state, the DOT finally got around to doing their own appraisal, they said, well, we have to agree with Mr. Bernache. He's absolutely right, but they put an 8% inflation factor on it. So we wound up buying it for around $135,000, which, if you've looked at lakefront property recently, I think was a real bargain.
It certainly is.
And it protected it in perpetuity.
So Meredith, both Suzanne and Shirley have raised their hands.
Okay, that's not coming through in my
Yeah,
screen.
that's why I said it. They both have questions or comments to make.
Okay, Shirley?
I think Suzanne was actually first. if that's
Okay,
the-
Suzanne?
A couple on the trails. Will they be gravel? Will there be some sort of paving kind of issue? And will they be finished for this summer? And my third question is it the patent access or the golden access? And that's with me.
I'm not sure. There's no real name for it. It's the access from the rail trail. I think I haven't been at a Lakeside Park meeting for the last 2 meetings. And I think the surface is still being discussed. The wheelchair accessibility it should be asphalt. However, there are some permeable surfaces that are also walkable. I don't know how they will be for wheelchairs, but we're reminded that the entire park does not have to be wheelchair accessible. In other words, if part of it is, that's okay. These will be walking trails, 6 to 7 feet wide, I believe. The issue is being able to pass another person on a trail. There's a formula, and that's where the building inspector comes into play. So, to my knowledge, the surface of these trails has not been finalized yet. Patty has planting material. I know that she wants to get in, and there's a work day on June 1st, by the way, that she's organizing. I hope that can be clarified very soon. I doubt that the trails will be totally in place by this summer. I think they've been roughly laid out, the design of them, but I don't think they'll be completed. The progress is very slow. Does that answer your question, Suzanne?
Yes, thank you.
How far is this,
Wait,
the lot
Shirley's
go?
turn.
Is that the vernal pool, is that you say it's at the end of the lot?
Right, down near Donnie Roberts' property, or the dock that
You
is
go to
actually,
the bridge that's way down,
yeah.
where the river comes down through.
I'm not sure, Celia. I haven't been down there myself. Doug has, though. Shirley was next.
Meredith, did you mention that the wall, I believe the work on the wall has been begun?
Oh, Doug went by there 2 days ago and still no work has been started. And I'm getting really worried about that.
I saw the equipment was.
Yes, yes, he's got a bobcat down there,
I
but
know that was one of the things that we mentioned, it was mentioned at the last meeting that it was going to begin, but it doesn't look like it has. So.
no, and I don't know where we stand with the permit by notification, Shirley. That's a concern of mine.
Well, those are good for, I believe they're all good for 5 years, but.
Oh,
I mean,
good. Oh, phew.
Yeah.
What Shirley's talking about is the old, probably the remains of the dock that the old motel had. If you go down there, you'll see a cribbing made out of railroad ties, and there's also a wall that's just downright dangerous. It's crumbling. We didn't realize how bad it was in the condition until we started cutting away some of the invasives last spring. And there are great big, I call them railroad spikes, sticking out of these railroad ties that are completely rotten. Anyhow, Mike Burns, a local landscape person, bid on the job, and he's going to be removing that wall and also the remains of the old, what's left of the dock. It's a cribbing filled with rocks, kind of like what the Shakers did when they built the Shaker Bridge. And all of that's coming out. And he will put in a ready rock retaining wall. So it'll be much more permanent than, oh no, surely it's not ready rock. It's
Right, no.
How do you describe that?
Well, it's a concrete wall, but it has a special additives that you can use that makes it better. And
Yeah.
you can also, he makes the design on it so it looks like it's actually rocks that the wall made of.
Shirley has one of these walls
We
that
have it,
built for her very successfully.
and I like it very much.
And the
But-
committee visited 2 or 3 of these walls that Mike has built, and they came away quite impressed.
And ours actually sits part of it in the water.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
So if we have a high tide down there,
yeah, it's meant to, it has a special additive that makes it much stronger and easier to design and be able to be used in the water. You have to put them, like ours, it had to be put in when the water was down.
yeah,
We replaced railroad ties with, which the Department of Environmental Services is grateful when you're gonna get railroad ties away from the lake.
yeah, it's full of creosote.
Bad, there were many years that's what people used for their walls and bad stuff.
Yeah,
So they're happy when you're going to replace a wall with that.
I remember when we first bought the lodge, there was a tool shed at the top of the driveway, and it had 2 leaking 5-gallon cans of creosote.
Mm.
And Mr. Livingstone used to every summer come and re-creosote everything. The siding on the building was, I call it slab siding. It was that sort of irregular, when they mill a tree, the sort of the edge slice, and he would put another layer of creosote on. And a couple of the young men that worked here said, yeah, we used to come and put the creosote on, and then we had these terrible skin rashes. So no wonder. Are there any other questions about Lakeside Park? Oh, the problem issues that I have on the agenda are the bicycles going through. And it's not a lot of bicycles, but it's certain people that are inconsiderate, pure and simple. I believe Roy Holland put a camera down there, hunting camera. The trash issue that people complained about in the beginning seems to have subsided. We go down there, we drive through regularly, and we don't, if we see an odd can or two, we pick it up and bring it home and put it in the recycling. So I don't think it's the huge problem that it was. There will be a handicapped accessible porta potty there this summer, I believe. Ed Morris feels that all porta potties in town should be handicapped accessible. So that's going to be an increase in cost. The Sailing Club and the Friends of the Northern Rail Trail have been splitting the cost with the town, a 3-way split. But that's not in my purview. If he thinks it's necessary, I guess it's necessary. So I guess that's it on Lakeside Park. Patty's always looking for workers. Unfortunately, I can't be there. My quarantine, I hope, will be up at the end of July. But until then, I have to remain isolated.
Well, it's nice to have you with us today, Liz.
Even without a picture, I don't know, even Rob couldn't figure out what was going on.
The same thing happened last night with planning board meeting. Dave Frack had a little cold and decided he should stay home. And we could hear him and he could see us, but we couldn't see him.
Oh, I wonder who can solve this problem.
It's gotta be him.
Well, it's not going to be me, I'll tell you that.
Bob's gotta figure it out.
Yeah,
That's
so there's
okay.
definitely something wrong. Yeah.
Linda, do you have a question?
No,
Oh, okay.
just expounding.
Okay. My little hand thing isn't working either. I'll have to mention that to Rob. Okay, the next thing on my agenda is the questions for David Frack. From David Frack. I did a presentation at the planning board. You were there, correct, Linda?
Yes.
And he sent me a list of questions following that meeting. I ran all of his questions. First of all, I responded right off the bat, sort of from the seat of my pants. And then I ran them by Brandy Laughlin, who is the point person at Historic Resources, and she said all of my answers were correct. So if you don't mind, I'd like to go through these. His question, please indicate specific actions required of the planning board in the process for applying for certified local government.
Oh.
Well, my response was, I'm not sure what, if anything, would be required of the planning board except working together for the common good. It's my understanding that when this application is made for certified local government status, we need to have the support of the planning board. So that remains to be seen. Please confirm that once certified local government status is granted, the Heritage Commission or other group overseeing the historic district will serve as an advisory capacity to the planning board, building inspector, and other town boards and employees concerned with land use approvals. Well, if he'd read the RSAs for Heritage Commission, he would have answered that himself. Yes, the Heritage Commission would act in an advisory capacity as described in the RSAs governing land use boards, which the Heritage Commission falls under. Another question, is there a maximum grant amount that a CLG town can receive for a specific project? No clue on this. I would imagine it would depend on the project and money available to the DHR, which is exactly true. They vary from year to year depending on what they get from the federal government. Is there a standard matching requirement or percentage, or does it vary by project and grant? I would assume that the grants, my response, grants are all 50-50, but we'll check with DHR. She says it depends. It depends on money available. The funds filter down through federal sources. This might vary. In the case of Northern Borders Regional Commission, the grant we received for Lakeside Park was 50-50. But if the park had been in Grafton, there would have been no match required. It goes on poverty levels for the Northern Borders grant process. What are the allowed sources for the town's match? I would assume that it would be up to the budget and CIP committee, select board, and town manager. The grant funds don't care where the match comes from, could be donors or other grants. What restrictions are tied to the grant money? I would assume it would depend on the project. For instance, in the case of Whitney Hall, grant funding for the proposed addition would probably not be eligible in an LCHIP grant, but repairs to the existing building would be eligible. In fact, that's what knocked us out when we applied with Ryan, when Ryan Ellsworth a couple of years ago did an LCHIP grant application. When George Bourne, who is the point person for LCHIP projects, came, and the first thing he saw was the new.
Want to take a break to catch your breath?
Oh no, it's okay. I'll shut up.
Okay, well, you do have pneumonia, so.
Yeah, but it's getting better.
Okay.
It failed because too much new construction was involved. The application had to be limited to renovating Whitney Hall itself. If it had been there, instead of including new construction, we may have gotten the grant, but anyhow, that's water under the dam. What factors are considered by the state of New Hampshire when reviewing a specific grant application. Since the grants come through the New Hampshire Division of Historic Resources, I would assume the determining factors would relate to historic relevance. And I did discuss that with Brandy Laughlin, and she said yes. Then he gets into the local historic district, which we need for this CLG application. And that, if you recall, are the three historic buildings in Enfield Center, the Union Church, the townhouse, and the schoolhouse. Will the landowners be given an opportunity to participate in the application process and join the district if they so desire? Well, of course, other landowners would be welcome to participate, but remember that we have identified these three buildings because they are in the public domain. I can foresee a situation where, after Enfield becomes a CLG, certified local government, Enfield Center might apply for a grant to do an inventory or survey of historic structures within the village area. And that's one of the things that a certified local government program does fund, are surveys and inventories, which in the case of Enfield Center would be important. I've always thought it was an ideal second large historic district, National Historic Register district. As for the grants and how they are distributed, I believe, but need to confirm, that private property owners would not necessarily be eligible for a grant to repair a private residence. That's true. Most of these grants are planning type grants. These grants are aimed at projects that will improve the entire town, not to repair a private homeowner's house or put a new roof on. I can tell you that when we established the National Historic Register District in Enfield Village, every property owner had to be notified by registered mail. Out of the 193 contributing properties in that district, only those property owners had to be notified. In other words, George's didn't have to be notified. Only one property owner objected to being listed. Listing, it happened to be Kate Stewart's father, by the way. Listing would simply allow the property owner to become eligible for the 20% federal tax credits. Those tax credits are not available to people who are living in a house listed on the National Register, but they are available to rental properties. In other words, a property owner could own a historic house that's rented out, either as a business or a residence, and be eligible for those 20% tax credits. But that's all National Register stuff, not certified local government. And Linda is our resident expert on certified local government. Linda, do you have any comments to make about all of this?
Well, some things come up in the planning board now and then, and my feeling is that they seem to think it's free money and don't perceive the work.
Yes.
And I try to have a little realistic response, as you have done here. And so there's great interest in it now. Mm-hmm. Because, we might get some free money.
Yeah,
and that question way back by Dan Kiley, I think it was, that was I'm not positive it was Dan, but the question was, so if we get become a certified local government, can we switch to our own projects? And
no.
They don't get it.
No, so at least a few of them just don't get it. You don't kind of get the status and then people offer you money.
Right,
you
exactly.
have
It
to,
does
a
apply to the whole
project,
town.
you have to apply, you have to have experts, verify what you need and, so
Yeah.
it,
And
It's-
there are other towns. Lebanon is a certified local government town. The town of Bristol, which is
yes,
modeled
that-
really.
I feel that if Bristol can do it, we can do it.
Yes, exactly. And but they have to do a little research themselves, leading the horse to water. This gets back to educating the planning board about what Heritage does and what we're all about. And I'm hoping that through Eric, I don't know whether he will remain on the planning board. Does anybody know what his assignment is as a?
Here,
Here,
he's here for one. I think, I don't dare to say, it would be in the minutes. I went to
Yeah.
that meeting. I think that Kate is going to be on it, but I'm not sure.
On planning board?
Planning board rep for select board.
Kate remains our planning board rep.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Eric is taking a budget, because he's been, hasn't he?
No,
No,
no.
I did just see that. Where did I
Yeah.
just see that?
John is still budget?
He's gonna be on Heritage Commission.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
the-
but
the-
Heritage was, that was, you're supposed to have two
Oh,
assignments.
I don't know the other one.
Okay, I'm wondering if he, well,
Look it up. It's in the minutes.
yeah,
Yeah. It was a meeting before last, they decided. It was the first meeting after.
right after town meeting,
Yeah.
yeah. Master plan. Celie, are you still involved with the master plan committee?
I don't know. I'm on the land use task force, and we've done that.
Okay,
So they're on a hold till, I think maybe the end of this month, or I know that my next meeting with them is July 11th.
okay,
So, but I do know they're gonna start doing this, conservation, the Heritage Commission. That's the next round, so.
interesting.
Yeah.
I thought, I read the draft that,
They haven't
her
thought of
name is
that.
Brandy too, isn't it? The woman that, the consultant.
Yeah,
Brandy,
Yeah, I was quite impressed with her comments, actually. She seemed very favorable towards things like historic districts and
Yeah.
Enfield's historic past.
it's, you gotta get in there and push it. The Heritage Commission does, it just got to. Because as you're saying, some of the planning board, they don't get it, but we talk about economic development, and I try to get that into the, economic development plan. And I think they did put that in.
Well, interestingly, the Northern Borders Regional Commission grant was based on economic develop for Lakeside Park, was totally based on economic development for Enfield. And I had a phone meeting with Ed Morris, well, right after I got out of the hospital. And I mentioned that, and he said, oh, it is economic development for Enfield. It's one of our biggest things for economic development. I guess bringing people into town. It's certainly becoming popular. So it doesn't necessarily mean building lots more dollar stores and Jake's economic development.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, right. I know. It depends on the attitude of those involved.
But they're starting out with what I think is happening, which I'm not crazy about, but instead of saying this is the master plan, it's completed, I'm afraid they're gonna take the first four and say, this is the master plan, and this is what we're gonna act on now, work on the other in the meantime.
The first four what?
The
subject
the
areas.
land use,
Oh, okay.
economic, transportation, housing.
Okay.
That's the
That,
first
that was
four.
covered last night, and they intend to continue. And they feel that some of the boards that haven't been spoken to yet, or officially, have already done the work, like the Energy Committee. And they looked at me and said, and I'll bet the Heritage Commission knows what they'd like. Well, it's to play on the same team is what we'd
But
like.
they haven't notified
Yes.
the boards that they want their input.
Conservation
No.
too. That's
Yeah.
a big.
Yes, and conservation.
Yeah.
Well, no, because we're not done with the first
Oh, I
four.
see. Okay.
And so it's gone to this Brandy person to tidy it up. And she'll be done by August 1st in theory. And then there'll be some large meeting. And after that, in the fall, maybe we should be starting on some of the others.
But I bet
Heritage and conservation frequently work hand in glove together. And there's often overlap there. Jerry Tice has been after me to join the Conservation Commission, but I'm not sure at this point I can take on that responsibility. I have to get healthier first.
I have a question, and maybe Shirley can answer this. They sent out those applications to be on the, what do you call, the maintenance?
The MFAC committee, yes.
MFAC
Oh,
committee.
yes.
And I applied and was not accepted.
Oh,
And
Neither was Stephanie Hill, I found out, and I wondered who else was rejected.
there were a
They-
lot of
That
applicants.
came up last night also, and it wasn't that they were rejected, they were looking for a broad slice of Enfield.
Uh-huh. And what did that broad slice include? I'd like to know.
Well, different ages, different occupations, living in different parts of town.
that's not what.
That is not what I heard.
That's not what the application said. It
No.
said that they wanted people with some sort of construction or building
Right.
experience, and I
Okay,
wrote
Yeah.
my,
Then I'm not sure.
I wrote my
Yeah.
whole application based on it.
I'm responding to.
Right, no,
what
that's
was
very
discussed last
interesting.
night.
Yeah.
And also,
Yes.
they said that they now have a master list of people who want to volunteer, and they're going to use it to come back and ask you, if they have an opening, if you'd like to, instead of just putting a notice on listserv saying,
they'll do it
Who
like they
said
did
this,
every
Linda?
other one. They
Who
put it
said
on a
this at the
spreadsheet.
planning board?
sheet.
Well,
what's that right there?
what my question
Was it a member
was,
of the committee?
Yes, it was, well, David was on the screen and Dan Kiley were both.
Neither one of them are on the committee.
because that was my question.
Oh,
Yeah,
Shouldn't the-
neither,
it
I'm on the
Okay,
committee.
then
Yeah.
I'm responding.
Well, I'd like to know what skill sets they were looking for. It seems to me, in Madeline's case, her brother runs an architectural firm, and Madeline, you have had experience in that area.
Yeah, I used to write about architecture and real estate for the Financial Times.
Yes, yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah.
No, but that aside, I mean, I wasn't doing this to gripe about it, but aside from you, Shirley, who on that committee is, representing or talking about the heritage point of view? Because those are
Oh,
big
there's,
issues.
committee is all about design and the finishing the design and getting the building contractors, deciding on the building contractors who will do the buildings. That's basically what,
Oversee the building, right? They were gonna oversee the contractors that are doing the building.
no, we're going to be putting out, is it RFPs, I got to,
Yeah. I thought that's been done.
But those-
no.
But my other question was it for that specific plan? Because I know the library had some issues that they wanted to talk, that they were not very happy about.
Mhm.
It seems.
Yeah, well, that's what this is, this
It seems like
group,
there's a lot to talk about from the design point of view, and
that's what this whole committee is all about, that and Yes,
That's
it
really
is.
weird. I thought that's what the other,
And it's,
municipal facilities committee did that.
no, well, this is the final going over. It's
That's what I
not
thought
gonna
that-
be major, it won't be major changes, but there will, this is, the committee is called the design committee.
But
And then we're gonna report to Ed, there'll be, there are experts in different fields that were
Are there any
chosen.
architects on this
now
committee?
I'm very confused because I thought the application was for the MFAC, but what
Yeah.
you're talking about is like a committee of the MFAC. Am I getting this straight?
Right, it's not at a municipal, it's exactly, it's design. This is, the design is in the name of this committee. And
But
we
what
will,
were the applications for? For that committee or for the MFAC? This is what I.
for this
if I-
committee, it's a, I mean, it's a,
That's
a,
what they said in the
it's-
very beginning. though.
What?
it's an
Right.
offshoot of the Municipal Facilities Advisory Committee.
It's kind of.
But this is
changed.
this is for design to fine tune final things and to, also to, get the contractors to do the buildings.
Then I would assume that there would be people with architectural and design
yes.
background on this committee,
Who's on
and
it?
not just local yokels that, might have been a carpenter in their past.
Oh, yeah, these are all very experienced people.
Can we,
That are on there.
can we find out who they are?
Yes, if I can remember who they are. Let's see. Tracy Young he and I are the only ones on there that were on the municipal facilities original committee. And I'm on there because I'm a trustee at the library.
Right.
And then there's a Travis Boucher, his area of expertise is electronics.
What's his last name?
Travis Boucher. Boucher.
Does he live in Enfield?
Is he the
He's
son?
a lifetime resident.
Is he the son of one of the major
Yes.
electrical contractors?
Oh,
in India?
Defiance Electric. Yeah.
I think his father
Yeah.
is the major,
Uh,
and then this is the follow-up son.
Tate Picard is on it.
Who?
Tate Picard.
How do you spell that? And is that a he or a she?
It's a he.
Picard?
And he's been very involved and he was very involved in a school
He was the Boy Scout leader.
construction. Yep.
So he's a
Um,
construction person.
Oh, gosh. Let's see. The other one, I can't remember his name. Kim Quirk is on it.
Okay.
That's energy.
There's 5 in all, plus me and Ed. And they all
And
have
she-
expertise in some type, in construction, in some area in
But
construction.
no, nobody with expertise in design or that.
Yeah, oh, I forget. There is some expert, there is, I forget which one it was now. But there is, they've covered all bases with it.
Well, I have to say, Shirley, that the scuttlebutt I've been hearing is it was another cherry-picked committee
Pardon me?
by people, because of the people that were rejected from this committee, that those in power wanted on that committee.
I don't think so. It's gonna be, it's just a year, probably will only last a year. This committee, it's to do specific things. And they will have input from the heads of the departments that are involved, the police, fire chief, ambulance, and library, and town offices. There'll be input from them. They're not actually on the committee, but there'll be input from them.
But
The original was all of them anyways.
Pardon me?
I'm confused because when we voted on this and when I asked around, I said to everybody, we're voting on this money, but are we also voting on that plan, on that specific thing? Everybody said, no, it's just the money, it's just the money.
Well, they're not gonna be huge, it's just going, I mean, they're not gonna be huge changes to that
But-
plan.
I
that's
hope
for
they
sure.
keep the stage.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that, yeah, I mean, I feel a little bit deceived by that
Mm-hmm.
because I don't feel as if there was a lot of input into that. As I say, my impression was we were voting on the money to do that. Those are plans, but they may not be the best ones,
Well,
and they may
those
not
are
be the ones.
Those are conceptual plans. You have to firm it up to be able to, to actually start construction.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but it seems to me
And
that
that's what
having,
this one is doing. They're not redoing the plans. I mean, we spent, was it $30,000 to Breadloaf to come up with the conceptual plans. It
but
isn't
the
throwing
way
those
the
out.
design, I'm not saying throw it out, but the way design processes work is a lot goes on between a master plan and some, what gets built, as I
Yeah,
said.
there are tweaks that are made.
I mean, there's some stuff there in the library that's kind of, to put it quite frankly, appalling.
Mhm.
Well, those things there'll be input from the librarian and trustees. That's why we play a big role in it.
My personal gripe, it would have been nice if they'd contacted the historian, not thought about the vault as an afterthought.
Yeah, I just,
Pardon me, I couldn't hear
I
you.
said, I thought initially it would have been nice if they had contacted the historian to ask what she wanted.
But you were at a lot of those meetings.
I was there, but
Yeah.
did you ever try and get a word in edgewise? or what?
Yeah, they didn't listen. They didn't listen at all. They had their hand-picked Vermont advisor, and I have asked repeatedly to have New Hampshire Historic Resources look at the plans, and they've refused and said, we've already had Breadloaf's historic person. Well, yeah, that person works for Breadloaf. I'd like to have an independent government
He's
assessment.
Vermont certified, that's what.
Well, yeah, he may
there
be
was-
Vermont certified, but
Maybe
he's not New
extra
Hampshire
cost.
certified.
That was there was an extra cost which the library and the town shared for that, to have that done.
Well, what would be
Yeah.
wrong with
The
having a
historic-
second opinion by New Hampshire
Really-
Historic Resources? I mean, when George Bourne saw the plan for those two offices to be placed up on the stage, they get rid of the stage. It's a fake stage. They keep the proscenium arch and the curtain and the historic curtain, and behind it are sheetrock walls where they've created two small offices. Well, George Bourne went into orbit about that when we had the guy from LCHIP come.
Well, whoever decided to put the elevator and did that in 1992, didn't they? They took away the stage.
Maybe.
Well,
Yes,
they
but
didn't
it's
the
going to
whole
be
stage,
restored.
But it cramped the style of the stage, but people
But it's
still
never
used
been
it.
used since then, has it?
Yes, it has.
Oh, yes, oh, yeah,
It's able to be used?
yeah, yeah. But you don't have that room on the right-hand side, but that's gonna change, you're gonna get that back.
Right,
Well, I
when they
found-
move the elevator.
Huh? What was that?
The elevator will be in a different place.
Right.
Yes, so the
exactly.
stage would be
Exactly.
completely restored if they didn't put those two stupid offices there.
Pardon me.
We did plays there with that. We had
Since the elevator was
PC,
put
we
in?
did Plaza Suite, we did the whole,
Since the
Yeah.
elevator was put in?
yes, yes.
Limitations on
We
it.
had some variety shows.
It could be used, but there was weight limitations on it.
Right.
I mean, to me, it just seems, considering that was part of the original plan for Whitney Hall, that it was in the charter, that was supposed to be that space from the beginning, I quite frankly find it appalling that one of the major features of that building is just being trampled on. I mean, whatever, it just,
Too.
it just seems
Well,
utterly ridiculous from,
these are all public meetings.
well, then.
And we had all public meetings for 2 years without
No,
hardly
wait a minute, Shirley,
anyone
we had
coming.
one meeting that they
No.
called the Heritage Commission the last second. And I remember
Yes.
we had to meet over in the police station,
They
Right.
were,
in the conference room, and that was the big meeting, they didn't do a damn thing.
Well,
with
are
it.
the design committee meetings going to be open?
oh, yeah.
Oh, wow,
It's the same.
okay. Well,
And there'll be an agenda just like the others. There'll
okay,
be,
you'll be hearing from us.
you'll see it on listed.
You gonna let us
town.
know when the meetings are?
Pardon me?
are they gonna let us know when the meetings are?
Yeah, they're always there. People, these are always posted just like any other meeting.
Have they been, when are you starting?
2 weeks from, let's see, there's one Tuesday, I don't remember the date right off, approximately 2 weeks from now.
Are they public noticed?
Yeah, I just said that.
Yeah.
There'll be public notice, there'll be an agenda.
Right, wow, okay.
But the other question is, will they listen?
Say to come. Had hardly, for 2 years, we had hardly any public input for the facility committee. Nobody came to the meetings, hardly any.
Yeah, I mean, that's our fault. My thought was, I assumed that you were just still like in the cataloging or whatever thing that in a design phase, you know, maybe not quite so far along. As I say, I got the impression when we voted that we were not necessarily voting on exactly that building.
This design
Because
that
that's
Red
what
Loaf
somebody
did,
said.
What?
That's what somebody
I
said.
think I may even have asked that in the meeting.
You
or
thought
something.
that you weren't necessarily voting on a design.
We were voting to put the money, to do the bond issue for the money. That it wasn't on the article that we were voting for that design.
Celie, you had a comment?
We agree.
um,
I'm not, you agree? I'm
I-
not nuts to have said
I
that.
forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I know what I want to talk about.
Comment make of that, for some reason, I thought that comment was directed at, getting the safety complex through. I don't,
Maybe.
that was the one, and they said, well, this isn't going to be the final plan.
Right.
We're gonna be changing.
Well,
So,
that's
no, that's.
the purpose of this design committee.
Well,
There will
then-
be changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would hope that they would change that safety
Because
complex.
that's why you wanted experts in the field. It's hard for just a volunteer off the street with no expertise to be able to tell what is best.
I don't see any
Well, that-
architect on that
And that's
committee.
what, yeah, as I say, I was a little bit surprised you haven't named anybody that's particularly, maybe they have a lot of experience in the design process
Mm.
from a, you know, historic or architectural.
I think they're tweaking, it sounds like they're kind of, not to interrupt, but I've been through this. They may be, you know,
They're looking at
fine-tuning-
energy,
They're
insulation,
fine-tuning
Looking at everything.
the work that has already been done and making minor changes within a dollar value.
What's the, yeah, cause what's the
They're
agreement?
not shovel ready.
No, and what's their agreement?
That's for sure.
And what's the agreement for, we paid them for that plan? Are we now on the hook, gonna be on the hook for any changes? I mean, how's
Yes.
that how's
I
that
would
going to
assume so.
play out financially as well?
Shovel ready plan that they came up with to present to the town
It's a
this year.
conceptual plan.
It was a conceptual, it was not.
Yeah,
there's
and
a
that was
difference.
totally
Okay.
clear.
Is it available?
Yeah.
Let me finish.
Yeah, it is available.
When the
Tried to
library
find it.
was going for a freestanding building, right? When we finished with our architect and with our builder, we had shovel-ready plans.
right.
They could have been taken, they were ready to go, and that was my understanding through the whole
That's what I was
thing.
gonna ask, what happened to that plan? We did this already.
We had money- If we had the money and if it was presented at the time, early on,
I remember that.
we could have, when they had done the illegal aspect, if we had the okay to go ahead with it, we had the plans to hand to the builder.
Mhm.
We didn't have to go any farther than that because they were.
And then, The one thing that in
And then-
2015, we had it updated. It was so old. And that cost another $25,000-$30,000.
No, I
the
wasn't
one-
part of that.
The
No,
one
just
thing that
understand
I have been impressed with Red Loaf with is that, I mean, they updated the cost before we put it on the warrant.
Yeah, right.
They have been working with the Ed and his predecessor,
Oh.
right along ever since, because this was finished in 2019. They have not charged a penny for
No,
all
they
that
didn't.
work.
I think they think they're gonna build it.
Well, I hope they
Oh,
are.
yes, that's a point I'd like to bring up. Bread Loaf is a vertical company.
Are we gonna have
They
bulletproof
design and build.
in the?
So will this be put out to RFPs?
Through some of those issues.
I'm
We'll have to
sorry.
go through, it'll go out so all different companies can apply. Yeah.
So it will. They're not married to Bread Loaf at this
No,
point.
it
Shirley.
will be gone, it will go out so that all different companies will have an opportunity to apply.
Yeah. and
Well,
I
that's
bet-
relief because there is
Different company that does each one.
there is a safety complex that was built recently. I think the name of the company was Gruen, and same sort of square footage that this one is proposed to have, but it has far fewer gables. The thing that Bread Loaf is designed is full of expensive gables. I'm not talking about needing a flat roof, but they don't need all the fancy things that they've put in that building. I mean, it's a police and fire station, for heaven's sakes. It's ridiculous.
I know
And I
they-
found the sales pitch that they did before town meeting was bordered on illegal.
I don't think we're gonna solve the problem tonight, ladies.
No, sorry, this was just a question about, no, that started as a question to you about what that committee was actually gonna do.
Yeah.
On some of those committees, they wouldn't let me. so.
They're online.
They're online
Yeah.
and even if, yeah,
We are up to sale of town-owned historic buildings.
Yes, and this is something I would like to throw out. Eventually, the two buildings that will be sold are the old railroad depot,
Yeah.
and believe it or not, the Union Street Fire Station is eligible for the National Historic Register.
it's adorable, it's a fantastic.
I like it too.
Right. I mean,
I
it is
love it.
mid-century modern.
I think.
And let me tell you,
I was like, oh my God, we could, exactly, we have to have a restaurant or
Meredith,
something.
what was it before? It was the milk?
it was a
But it
It
dairy.
was built for, wasn't it built for the Milk Depot?
That's right. It was the Hood Dairy, and it was built next to the railroad tracks because the farmers would bring their milk to the dairy and it'd go on the train. People always said, oh, to Boston. I don't know why Boston sucked up all the milk, but anyhow,
Because that's where
Yeah.
that was their main headquarters, was located in, Somerville or.
Yeah, you used to see the
Yes.
sign, there was that
Yeah.
big
Oh,
hood
the,
sign.
the big smokestack.
Right,
that's-
Right, that was the
Yeah.
smokestack.
I hate to date myself, but it was a it was a milk company when I was growing up. It
Yes.
wasn't Until I was a young adult that it was changed.
I have a question about that too. So the land belongs to the state, am I?
some of it,
correct?
some of
Okay.
it. And that's, they're trying to work that out, Madeline, and it's the same thing with the old depot building. The town owns the building, the DOT, Bureau of Rails and Transit owns the land underneath it, and I think they're working on that. Susan Brown and Angus DeRocha wanted to, or maybe it was just Susan, but anyhow, part of her front yard was actually owned by the state, and she's been working on that, and I think it's been resolved. So I know that Andrew DeRocha is very interested in acquiring the old railroad depot and would do something nice with it, I would think. The building, the dairy building, it's not a commercial district, so I don't know how that would, it could be converted into a residence, mid-century modern, very hot right now.
But I wonder, I realize it's not a commercial thing, but would it make sense for the town to retain ownership and have send a long-term lease to somebody who puts a restaurant there or
Well,
does
I don't know whether they could put a restaurant there because it's it being an R1 district.
Well,
that would be a question.
They changed the zoning on the corner across the way Which
Uh-huh.
corner? The one, where the Shed Street stuff.
Yeah,
Were all
Shed-
those buildings. So that was voted on to have an apartment. They took all the regs out of it so they could have an apartment building built there. And it's an R1 zone. That's supposed to, but we all just changed the zoning for that. 3 lots there together.
So
Well,
that they,
did I tell you a story about another fire station that was sold? When we lived in Wilmot Flat, the fire department got together. When we first moved there, they didn't even have a full-time police chief. He was the shop teacher at the high school, and he was a deputy police chief. Anyhow, but the fire department got together and they built a first-class fire station and police station on Route 11. It cost $156,000 because they donated their time and they got a lot of donated materials. So that put the old fire station, which was of nondescript architectural integrity, up for sale. And a woman from Mill Valley, California bought it. And she turned it into a designer's showplace. She established a nonprofit called the Women's Trust, and it's still going. They do micro lending in Ghana. And she, last year or maybe the year before, sold the building. She needed more space. She was living there and running this nonprofit out of this showplace she created out of an old fire station. It was right in downtown Wilmot Flat, across from the Baptist church, the local GP, and our house. Anyhow, she thought, who am I going to sell this crazy building to? She did it very much along the lines of Frank Gehry, the architect, and it was and is a dramatic space. So she hired a gay real estate agent who found her some rich guy in Sunapee who has a huge costume collection, including Phyllis Diller's meat dress. And so this former fire station, former headquarters of the Women's Trust, is now his place where he can exhibit his costume collection. It's not an open museum, but anyhow, kind of interesting story of what can happen to an old fire station.
So
Anyhow, to back up on the sale of these buildings, very early on in the past history of the Heritage Commission, April Whitaker was town manager, and the town had taken for taxes 18 High Street. It was reputed to be an old original Enfield schoolhouse. Marjorie, you remember Walter Backerfin was involved with that?
yes, he was. He was convinced it
Yes.
was schoolhouse. In fact, he went through it.
Yes.
And that was his considered opinion.
So at any rate, the town it had waited the 3-year period, and they
And took it.
had put $6,000 in the budget to tear this building down. It was a disaster. It was ready to roll. So I went to April and I said, look, you're going to spend $6,000 to tear this building down. Why not put it up for sealed bids to see if somebody wants to buy it? That'll save you the $6,000, and you might just get something nice there, but you're to put covenants on it so it can't be completely destroyed. Well, Don Roberts bid on it, $11,111.11, and he won the bid. So already the town is $17,000 ahead because they didn't have to pay to tear it down, and he put his money into it, and he rebuilt on the site what's there today, 18 High Street, which is now pays taxes and is a very attractive residence. So that's what I'd like to see with these 2 buildings that the town is planning to sell.
It's,
like a
it-
It's
it
kind
has
of
a-
across from the kids, what used to be the kids' view or kids.
Yes, that's right. It's on the river side, and one of the proposals was
Oh,
to
that
turn it
crazy
into
thing
a park.
that's sort of on the
you can't
slope.
have two
Yeah.
people
Yes,
It's a-
yes, it was a very difficult site, which is where they used to put these old schoolhouses on land nobody else wanted. But anyhow, Don laid over 8,000 bricks. The place, we went through it, he had an open house when he finished the work. It's a work of art. He's since sold the building, he rented it for a while. But that's what can happen if you have competitive bidding and put covenants on, so that, first of all, it can't be torn down. And second of all, that you keep the historic character of the building. So that's what I'm going to promote.
And Meredith, and it also had to fit in with the neighborhood.
Exactly, exactly. And it does. It looks like it's been there for forever.
I went through it also. A friend of mine was feeding the cats of people who were renting there while they were away. And I got to go through it, and it's 3 levels.
Yeah,
It's an amazing amount of space.
yeah, because he took advantage of the basement area.
There's a basement that is completely open onto a veranda that goes around, and then the next level, another veranda. Inside and out, it was quite amazing.
The old bathtub from Livingstone Lodge is in that building. I really wasn't into having a clawfoot bathtub, but Don wanted it to be in keeping with the building.
So what can we do to be involved in this?
Well, I want to get the sense of the Heritage Commission and see how you feel about promoting these when the buildings do come up for sale. Promoting this idea of covenants and sealed bids to purchase the buildings.
I don't think we should wait either. I think that's something that should be started as soon as possible, because everybody's got
That's a good point, Celie.
their
Yeah.
antennas for money.
Yes.
in the
What
town.
about, is there some way we can take that money and use it for the townhouse? To buy that land?
No, I don't think.
No,
I don't think so.
I think we're going to have to, there are specific grants to buy land to support a historic structure. And we have to go for one of those.
Yeah,
But the town can't take the money that they earn from selling the houses
I
and,
Right,
can't
everything
answer
goes into the
that.
general fund.
I mean,
Yeah. It might be earmarked for the new construction.
oh, it is,
Mhm.
I think, because that was one of the things they said, yes,
Mhm.
Yeah,
that it would be used to defray that. Okay, anyway, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a different thing.
okay, so for the next meeting, why don't I write up some kind of a formal proposal that we can present to, shall we say, the planning board? What do you think, Linda?
yeah, I think they're interested in listening now.
Okay,
I would just send that to the town manager too, because
okay,
Idea.
he's being fed everything from you know who, so.
yeah,
Fed.
And
Yeah.
getting them to do what he wants.
Oh,
I had a 1-hour phone conversation with him because I wanted to clarify a lot of points that he might have been misguided on. Okay, I will do
was
that.
he open? Was he open to?
He listened. He listened. I think the exhibit of 18 High Street as being very successful and turned money into the town coffers, not only saved the money of the $6,000, but put a house back on the tax rolls and added to the neighborhood. I think that's a success story. And let's copy that. Okay, Old Home Days. I'm on the newly formed Old Home Day Committee. Dolores Struckoff is the chairman. And I haven't been at a meeting in 2 or 3 meetings because of my being sick. But one of the things that I had proposed was an old timers night, and that's not a good name for it, but a night or an afternoon where people would gather, long time and maybe not so long time, Enfield residents would talk about life in Enfield. What gave me this idea?
Telling old stories.
Right. We once, years ago, we went to one in Wilmot, and I'll never forget it. They were all women, elderly women, and they told wonderful stories. There was a woman named Lyda Gross that talked about her husband being in the 1950s, was in the hospital, and they ran a dairy farm. And she got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and stoked the wood stove. And then she went out and milked the cows. And first she put her oatmeal on to stew on the wood stove, came back in and ate her oatmeal and went back out and did whatever she had to do with the milk. But it was a little window into life in the 1950s in Wilmot Flat, New Hampshire. And Dwight Marchetti told me that when he was in high school, he worked at the woolen mill after school, the 3 to 11 shift. And
I
that
was
the
just
mill,
about to say that. We should get the people who worked, and so many people worked in those mills. I mean,
yeah,
just keep people from sort of rambling on about anything. If that was the theme of, I think it would be fantastic.
just to stick to the mill history.
I mean, because so many people did it in different, who was telling me? Maybe it was Steve Patton and that, like, in high school, like how they worked and earned money and did stuff in
Yeah.
the summer and what they did and,
Yeah, that was during my time period too.
yeah.
Boy, I dated, worked there 3 to
Yeah.
11.
Apparently the mill manager was
Same
very
age-
kind to
he's
these
Same age
kids.
as Dwight.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's what exactly, the manager was somebody
And they-
who was super helpful and,
And there were
Yeah.
many of them, many, not just those are 2 I happen to know that did it.
yeah.
But,
I know Don Roberts worked in the tannery in Lebanon during his high school days.
Pardon me?
Marjorie, do you have any thoughts on this?
starting to say something. Yes.
Oh, some of the women speaking would work the night shift, 11 to 7, and then they would come home and they had a family, they had young kids, and they would sleep on their living room couch all day long, and it was broken sleep because to keep her eye on what the kids were doing.
Yeah,
She did when she worked in the mill.
Oh my God, yeah.
interesting.
It was a very different life than we live.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic.
Passed on, but that's what they
It'd
did.
be fun to hear these old stories for
I
people.
would love to hear them. Maybe we could, Enfield's rich mill history. I mean, it started with the Shakers, but we can't dig up a shaker or two to tell us about it. But actually, the woolen mill was an outgrowth of what the Shakers started. And we could do it at the townhouse if I could get Liam to agree to it. And combine it with the tour of the 3 buildings. The Old Home Days would like to have that as well.
Pardon me, Mary.
I think if you did it, I think it's a good idea, but you would have to seed the group.
Yeah,
Get it out, because remember when we did it for one of those celebrations, we couldn't get them to talk.
yeah. Yeah, you have to have some, Becky Powell was good at that. You have certain, you need a moderator.
We need an MC sort of a person who
Right.
kind of keep it
Hopefully
going.
we could get Dwight to talk.
Yeah,
And he would probably have suggestions of others from that
Sure.
time.
I know Paul Courier said they used to go around and pick up the bobbins and throw them.
oh, I love Paul Courier. He's wonderful. Great
Yeah,
at writing him down.
He would be great to talk, because I still remember his story about throwing the bobbins.
And maybe someone like Marianne in Shaker costume to set the groundwork and the establishment of the mill history in Enfield, and that might start people talking. First act.
I know, you need to do this.
Okay, well, I think we have a plan for the heritage
Better record it.
contribution
Yeah.
to Old Home Days. I'm glad you like the idea.
No, I love it. I love doing the mill thing, because that's something that people really remember, and that's just a part of Enfield's past that seems so incomprehensible to people, that it was so commercial.
Yeah. Marjorie, I was wondering the other day, the tannery that was on the island that Kim Quirk owns, did that go out in the 38 hurricane, or was that prior to the hurricane?
I don't honestly know.
It was a huge building.
Another thing that in that same time period that went on regularly was the street dances. Right there in downtown Enfield. I was a Canaan girl, but we always went to the street dances in Enfield and Lebanon. They were
Lebanon had
huge.
street dances.
Pardon me?
Lebanon had street.
Oh, yes.
dances.
That's what I said. I went to
wasn't
those.
old
Too.
enough to go alone, but we kind of drive slowly by.
I got
Did you ever go to the dances in Blackwater where there
No.
was the,
My mother wouldn't
Rose
allow me to go there. There was a lot of other stuff going on there.
I heard there.
Not a good place for young people.
Next.
At least that's what her impression was.
Next,
Next, we have that Mascoma Valley Preservation Update.
Yes, I'm waiting with bated breath.
So the Grafton Center Meeting House has new roof beams. that
Wow.
have Delivered and installed in the roof, roof beams. And the next was to get boards cut, and it was hard finding boards and someone who would cut them. So that's what's currently being done.
Are these the roofing boards, Linda?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So by winter, we should have a roof.
Wow.
The first level of a roof. MVP is applied for another Moose Plate grant. I don't remember what this one's for. We discussed all the things it could be for, and I don't remember the final answer. And we're going to participate in New Hampshire's gambling again this year and go with the poker room.
Oh,
So gambling is allowed in New Hampshire if it benefits nonprofits.
Yeah, that's the most amazing thing.
That's
And
like bingo.
so there is a percentage of each poker room's day's take that we have had to apply. A percentage gets given to nonprofits. And we had to apply. We did this last year and were awarded 2 weeks. And we had to pay to participate. So in the end, our fees were $2,000 and our take was $16,000. So we made $14,000 on it. And
Free money.
the only catch was that every day, because these things went on a daily basis, that one board member had to go in, any board member had to go in and sign the form, and they had them all made up ahead of time. You just had to go in and sign and date it. So that's what we did. We divided them up and everyone took, 2, 3, or 4, whatever worked for their lives. And we, that was the easiest money, actually.
No
I-
option this year?
No, that's an awful lot of work. And those are the words of the people who ran the auction, like, oh, no, that was a lot of work.
What, a silent auction?
New Hampshire gives?
Yes, and we are part of the New Hampshire Gives, and that postcard you got in
I
your
saw.
box didn't have 4 nonprofits. This year it had 5. So we're number 5 there. So hopeful.
I got an email from Andrew yesterday, and he's leaving the State Historic Parks and taking the summer off and then going back to Preservation Alliance. Did he tell you about that, Linda? And
Yeah, we've
Why?
followed it all along. He had a really miserable winter.
Oh.
He was not happy where he was. He took the job. He didn't want to leave Preservation Alliance. But they didn't offer him benefits.
Ah,
And, he felt that that was the right thing to do, but
Yeah.
it turned
Yeah.
out did not enjoy the work, and there were some people who were making his life quite difficult, and he missed what he was doing. I mean, he did have a master's degree in preservation,
yeah.
and as a 14-year-old, he pulled off his first save. So, I mean, it's in his heart.
Yes.
So anyway, he was just so miserable that, the group is really a bunch of old ladies, except with a couple, one 30-year-old, one 50-year-old, and the rest of us are all old. And we were all saying to him, or one woman in particular said, Andrew, this is the after the meeting out by the car type talk.
Mhm.
If you're really unhappy, you need to leave there.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, he had given his notice, planned to get his house finished over the summer, and Preservation Alliance wanted him back, and they matched his salary and benefits.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's really good news.
Yeah, right. Because he's so enthusiastic.
Oh,
But
he's
Hard
just,
to see him just so unhappy with people, just, I don't even know what, being difficult.
he was with a state agency, is all I can say. I mean, here we have the Commissioner of Education that never sent one of his 7 children to a public school. That gives you an idea of who these political hacks are. So him trying to talk historic preservation to that sort, hitting your head against a wall. Shaker Museum report. Do you have anything, Shirley?
Well, they had the forum in person this year, and also been having 4th graders for the History Alive program this spring. They were contacted about doing it, so they did it. And there's been 6 or 7 days with it. They're going to have a soft opening on June 11th, and doing lots of things with exhibits too.
So the
And
soft opening is the official opening of the museum?
no, they will be, I forget exactly, the official opening is within a couple weeks after, I forget the exact date, but the soft opening is on the 11th.
That's the same day as the Ukrainian
I know.
Day for Ukraine.
The soft opening was planned long before the Ukrainian thing.
Oh,
That's also the Dartmouth graduation
Yeah.
day too.
I didn't realize that the museum was closed, to tell you the truth.
Pardon me?
I didn't realize the museum was closed. I thought it was open to the public.
Yeah.
So is this opening, does this have to do with COVID or just they didn't
Nope,
have it open?
A regular opening. They always do this in the spring
Oh.
and then have the full opening.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
Are
interesting.
they having a music seminar? Are those people coming back?
No,
No, they're not.
Oh, that's
No,
too bad.
I know, it is.
That's really too bad.
they ran out of money, I think, Madeline.
I forget exactly what the reason was myself, but it could have been that. Mary.
Yeah, multiple reasons. I mean, he was running it on a
Uh,
shoestring.
For scheduling weddings
Yeah,
and they've had lots of people that have had meetings and conferences there, and it's been quite active in this
Good.
time. And there's a new development director, and she's really doing a great job. We're part of New Hampshire Gives too, and it's hopefully it will go well.
I sent an email to Marianne Hagan after reading the Friends Quarterly, which is the newsletter for the museum. And I said, this ought to go to the town offices to keep the museum on the radar. And she said, absolutely, great idea. And one copy to the library as well.
The town newsletter, that should be in there too, shouldn't it?
Yes, the museum gets tax-free status, and every year the select board has to override Norm Bernash's opinion that if they make money, they should be paying taxes on their rentals. And there's case law that says if the money that's being raised goes toward the mission of the nonprofit, then they don't have to pay property taxes. So anything that the museum can do to reinforce the fact that it is a tremendous asset to Enfield. I mean, Whaleback gets property tax exemption, which for a lot of people is a stretch.
Yeah.
To have, skiing as a nonprofit.
Another thing that the museum is going to be working on too is digital, self-guided digital tours that you can take and do yourself.
That's good.
Yeah, most
Really
museums are doing
coming
that.
up with a lot of new ideas, and
It's just getting people to activate them and do them, I guess, like so many things. Okay, does anyone have anything else that they would like to add to this rather lengthy meeting?
Quickie, if you all don't mind. Yesterday I just happened to run into Vicki Pellerin, who owns the wonderful house on Shaker Hill. I've forgotten the name of it. It was Becky Powell's house. Previously, it was the owner of the Mills house.
Yeah, we still call it the Becky Powell House.
Yeah, yeah. And she said, I saw an old photograph. The house originally had big, beautiful porches.
Oh, I remember them.
Yeah, I'd love to restore the porches. Is there any grant that would cover that? And I said, not that I know of for her, individual property and improvement of a house, even though it's in the historic district, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I promised to throw it out and see if anyone knew or have any idea of any source that would help them rebuild.
Does
I
she
would
have-
say only if she was going to turn it into a rental and it wasn't her personal residence. Then she might apply. She would have to get the building listed. It is eligible. And then from there, she could apply for the 20% federal tax credits. But there would be no grant that I know of that would be available to rebuild the porches.
Unless she made up a nonprofit.
I'm
You know?
sure they want to
That's
maintain it as
the-
private
That's the
home.
new thing.
Thank
You
you.
don't pay taxes.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been great, ladies. Shall we,
Yes, should we
adjourn?
adjourn?
Everyone
Motion to
is-
adjourn.
I'm already over
Aye.
here.
Aye.
Aye.
Let me go turn off this thing because, oh no, but Meredith, we can't talk to you anymore, but I don't know whether he's got this on record. I don't want.
Okay, thank you all.
Was it on record?
Marjorie,
I don't know, it just occurred to me that maybe it was,
I'd forgotten my mask going into
I
the
don't-
store, so I went to.
I don't
customer
know.
service,
See that,
And they
the little
said,
thumb up there in the corner says leave, there you go.
Oh. you
Right,
want
no, I
some?
was wondering, cause
How
I
many?
guess,
And
I
said,
think this means
Whoa.
it
how
started
many are you
recording.
Giving away.
Oh,
I
it
mean,
says
I
recording.
It's recorded, yes,
Yeah.
Meetings account started recording. Let's, what happens?
there you go. All right, well, I'm gonna turn it off now. Is that okay with
Okay.
everybody?
Yeah.
Bye.